0-4 is what first round buys fall to, as the Georgia Bulldogs are the latest victims as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish comes back after a short delay due to the unfortunate and terrible terrorist attacks that happened in New Orleans last night. And the Irish come out and punch Georgia square in the mouth with a 23-10 victory over the Georgia Bulldogs. Notre Dame will play Penn State next week in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl for a chance to play for the national championship. Lucas Hill here with you as we get ready for what is a pretty exciting nightcap. Very, very, very interesting nightcap that we have tonight. But guys, we got to be real. We absolutely have to be real with what happened today. The biggest turning point in this football game was the second half, was just halftime. It's 3-3. Notre Dame gets a field goal. Georgia goes back on offense. Boom. You turn the football over twice in the first half. One was in the red zone on 3rd and 1 on a draw play, which I thought was absolutely horrendous. A horrible play call by Mike Bobo in this offense. I did not agree with the play call at all. That was a horrible, horrible play call by Mike Bobo. The one thing that has hurt Notre Dame was their ability the one thing that has hurt Notre Dame was outside runs. That's been a big weakness of them. You did not see that a whole lot. We told you Notre Dame was going to attack this secondary. They did so. Georgia struggled with being able to come up and get open field tackles in the middle of the field, especially on that last drive when the game wore down. That was just a dominating performance by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Absolutely unbelievable reaction that we just saw. So, guys, if you are just tuning in, welcome into the College Football Nightcap. I'm Lucas Hill. Follow me on X at Lucas_Hill23. Scout and a couple of other guests will be with us in just a few minutes. Leave us your comments. Leave us your thoughts down below in the comments section. Make sure you hit up the hotline as well to text us in with your thoughts as well. 601-980-1621 as we give you an instant reaction to everything that went down today in New Orleans. An absolutely great performance from Notre Dame. I mean, just unbelievable what we saw. Look, I will give this Glenn Schumann defense credit. You were able to make plays. Your defensive line performed for you. But as the game went along, you started to regress. You started to struggle. Guys, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We got to react to this. We got to give my thoughts on it. We're going to give other people's thoughts. We'll have Scout obviously joining. We'll also have another guy, Alex Netterveld, the publisher and editor-in-chief over at Mike Farrell Sports, who will be on. But, guys, this was just one of those games that you knew it wasn't happening. Let's bring him on. What's up, Alex?
What's up, Lucas? How we doing?
For the first time.
Yes, sir.
Scout's coming in just a little bit. Alex, just the last several seconds of this first half for Notre Dame and the start of the second half basically ended the football game there. You knew from that point forward, this was going to be a race to 20. I talked about it with Harrison Fan at the start on Texas Sports Unfiltered earlier today. And we knew that this was going to happen. We knew that the strength of Georgia was their ability to own the line of scrimmage on defense, to get offenses off the field. I will be honest with you. I thought this was Mike Bobo's worst day as a play caller for Georgia. This was a horrendous offensive play calling. Look, you started off great. First 2 drives, it didn't look great on the first one. Second drive, you start to get some momentum. You fumble in the red zone. And then the third drive is when all hell broke loose with that Parker Jones dude who bumps into an official. They get flagged for a sideline warning, which I've never seen after one initial contact, which I thought was kind of crazy because I was just expecting a warning from them. I didn't expect for them to automatically flag him 5 yards. Anyways, it turns into a field goal for Georgia, and you think, all right, well, this is just going to be one of those games. So, Alex, enough of me talking. Give me your reaction to this.
Yeah, and you said it plain and simple. Notre Dame won the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I do think that overall the defensive lines, and they were obviously better, but when it mattered most, especially, I mean, I know Notre Dame had that 17-point lead. It was a 10-point lead most of the second half. There's still that thought in the back of your mind. This is still the Georgia Bulldogs. They are still the best team, the best program in college football. You cannot count them out until the clock reads 0-0-0. It's the same way I looked at Alabama in the past. Just look at that. I think the 2022 game against Auburn, for example, or the 2021 and 2023 games. You can never count out Alabama. You can never count out the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs. You can never count them out. And Notre Dame, they took it to them. Notre Dame, they won the line of scrimmage. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, he outcoached Kirby Smart. Their coordinators, Denbrock and Al Golden, they outcoached the Georgia defense coordinators, Mike Bobo and Glenn Schumann. That's what it is at the end of the day. Obviously, Georgia, they were hurt by injuries a little bit at their tackle, not having Carson back. That makes a big difference. You lose all that experience. And I know the commentators they talked about this, just the protection looks and switching that stuff up. Gunnar Stockton, he doesn't have that experience. He isn't as good, recognizing that, changing that up. Notre Dame, they took advantage of it, even with their depleted defensive line. I know Howard Cross went down for a little bit. Riley Mills, he was out as well. It's an impressive win overall. Nobody's going to play their best game against Georgia. Notre Dame did what they had to do to win, and a 13-point win at that. When was the last time Georgia lost by double digits? Was it the 2020 Florida game or the 2020 Bama game?
2020. I don't remember. Yeah. No. They lost by double digits in the SEC title in 21, I believe.
Oh, right. Yeah, Alabama pulled it away, but they didn't lose by. That's their last loss of double digits. Obviously, they were down a lot against Alabama this year. They came back, though. They had a chance to win it. You don't see Georgia teams lose like this, especially to Notre Dame. I just want to think about what Marcus Freeman has done. Brian Kelly, his reputation was he's going to have Notre Dame in it. He's going to have 9-10 wins. He's going to take them to the playoffs a couple times, too. Sure, we'll go 11-1. He's not going to win the big game. Before that, Notre Dame, they haven't won. They've never won a BCS game. I think they were 0-5 before that. Never won a playoff game. Never won any of these big games. You could see it during the regular season as well. Before the season, I'm going to go on a little side plug tangent thing. I wrote the Notre Dame coaches in their third year. You can always tell how good a Notre Dame coach is in their third year. Brian Kelly, he made the national championship in his third year. I don't remember all the names in the past, but another Notre Dame coach won a championship in his third year. Another one won as well. Some of their coaches in the 2000s, they did not win it. They had poor third years. They were fired shortly after. Marcus Freeman's delivered. He is the man for Notre Dame in the future. It's incredible what he's done. It's very impressive. And the ceiling is the national championship for this team as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you look overall at what Notre Dame was, you mentioned it already, Alex. You look at year 3 dudes of what Notre Dame has done. The first 3 seasons of BK from 2010 to 2012 goes to a national title. Let's go back take you back a while. Let's go back to Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss. I couldn't remember the coaches' names. And
Charlie Weiss, his first 2 years, he goes to the Sugar and the Fiesta Bowl, loses both of them. In year 3, they go 3-9. And the only reason that they had those seasons where they go to BCS bowl games is because they had Tyrone Willingham's recruits. He's the guy that had Brady Quinn. He's the guy that really recruited a guy like that. Ty Willingham was really disrespected as a head coach at Notre Dame as well.
Yeah.
Understandably so, knowing the expectations there, but I still think Ty Willingham got disrespected. Regardless, you are correct. We need to be focusing on where this team is now.
Yeah.
I mean, year 3 has been unbelievable for Notre Dame.
Yeah. I think obviously the way people discredited Notre Dame, it's that NIU loss. You cannot erase. It's one of the most embarrassing losses this decade for a team that, again, they might win a national championship, and their only losses to Northern Illinois. That's unheard of. That sounds insane, especially at week 2. Coming off that big win over Texas A&M to have the letdown of all letdowns. And it may not even matter as well. It's insane.
Let me give you some interesting stats, Alex. Ever since the 1992 season, that's the first year that we got away from the AP poll and everything else deciding a national championship, and we actually had a system in place for a BCS in the Bowl Alliance, the Bowl Coalition, BCS/CFP era. Would you consider the Cotton Bowl a bowl or a bowl championship series bowl now?
I think the Cotton Bowl is kind of weird. The Cotton Bowl was like the Southwest Conference Bowl. They had the auto bid, but I want to say like after 1992 or whenever the first year of the Bowl Coalition, it wasn't a major bowl. Same with the Peach Bowl until the New Year's Six era and the 4-team college football playoff. I don't think they were considered major bowls. I'm trying to think about like Texas Tech, and if you looked at when Mike Leach was the coach in the 2000s, they had a couple of years. They won the Cotton Bowl as like a 9-4, 8-5 team. That bowl has taken a step up in prestige. That and the Peach Bowls.
Let me tell you this, Alex. Before this year, before we saw Indiana game last week, Notre Dame was 0-10 since 92 in those Bowl Alliance, Bowl Coalition, BCS/CFP era games. You have your first 2 wins since that in this era, which says a lot. And when you think of Notre Dame, you think of the great tradition. This was truly a signature year for them. This was truly one of those years that you really weren't sure what to expect. A lot of people were already calling for Freeman's head at the beginning of the season after that loss to NIU. They were embarrassed. There was no way that you could come back from this and you could say, okay, we'll be able to save his job, knowing what Notre Dame has done in the past. They've had embarrassing losses like that. You lost to Marshall last year, or either that or the year before. It was 2
years ago.
2 years ago, you lose to Marshall. You end up finishing 9-4, 10-3. That's not good enough at Notre Dame. You haven't won a big game yet. Today, you did. You did it because you attacked the portal. You were able to get dudes like Riley Leonard, like Jeremiah Love, like Jordan Faison. That linebacking core, by the way, was a dominant force today. That was probably some of the best linebacking I have seen from the college level over the last 5 years. That was so impressive from what I got to see from them. And there's more coming. We got a great game ahead of us.
Oh, I thought you meant down the road for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, under Marcus Freeman, I think the main reason he left, he said he couldn't win a national championship. I think one of the big things was recruiting. Notre Dame is in South Bend, Indiana, not known as a talent hotbed. You have the school's academic standards. There are some very talented players that you can't recruit at Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman's proven him wrong. I think they have a top 10 class this year. They had a top 10 class last year. They were the number one. They had the number one recruiting class this year for a little while. This is a good – Marcus Freeman is just so impressive. He's getting such great talent in there. And again, Mark, I know they're just going to get more great talent as well. I mean, there's always players that, they want that degree from Stanford. They want that degree from Michigan. Why not Notre Dame? You get a great degree as well. You're playing for one of the best football teams in the country as well. It's only going to get better in theory. Again, I don't want to look too far down the road. Notre Dame, they are excited about Steve Angeli in the future. They're very excited about CJ Carr as well in the future. They aren't going to have to rely on these one-year portal players. Jack Cohn, a couple years back, was awful. Obviously, Sam Hartman, not great either. Leonard's better, but you got these guys, homegrown kids who look to be fantastic down the road. There's so much to be excited about.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much talent in South Bend that gets so overlooked too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go to a place like Notre Dame, and when you look at the recruiting around the state of Indiana, you look at Mr. Football down there, that dude would barely get a walk-on at an SEC school, let alone an offer from a major P4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and yet you see guys like that, and you see how they've been able to do well and finally get their hits in the portal. I mean, you talk about guys that have been dominant. You talked about it already. I look at a guy like Riley Leonard, who was perfect for the Denbrock offense. You saw what Mike Denbrock used a guy like Jaden Daniels last year. Riley Leonard's not Jaden Daniels.
No.
But good Lord, his skill set is perfect for his offense. It fits. It fits like a glove, dude. And when you see him run this offense, run the option game like you have with Jeremiah Love or with it doesn't matter who you have in the backfield. When you have a capable quarterback that can run your offense to a T, that has the confidence like that, you can do big things. I'll say this too, Alex. Let's kind of move on from Notre Dame. Let's talk about Georgia now. This was arguably, to me, I'm around SEC country. I'm around Baton Rouge. I'm around that South. This was probably the worst year that the SEC could have had. This was the last thing they could have wanted.
Yeah.
And
literally the only – go on. I'm sorry.
You're fine. But this was the year that the SEC wanted to avoid. This date, November 23rd, when Alabama and Ole Miss lost on the same day to Oklahoma and to Florida. And then when you look at the rest of college football, it just seems like everybody looks at these hypothetical scenarios for the SEC and these hypothetical records. I hate it when they do that. Lane Kiffin's tweeting during the Notre Dame Indiana game and throughout the rest of the CFP games. 0-4. You look at the SEC, they're freaking 2-2 in CFP games. Texas has won both of them, but damn, they could have had no SEC teams in the semifinals.
That's the point I was about to make. Arizona State, they were right there. They need to stop on a 4th and 13. And again, you look at I'm going to look at this from the Big 12 perspective first. Yeah, they lose Texas, Oklahoma. Hell, that conference almost ceased to exist. The Pac-12 was, circling them like vultures. The Big 10, they were going to get Kansas, and they were going to build the best basketball conference in the world. Whatever. The Big 12's turned themselves around, and they were one play away from saying, "Oh yeah, we lost Texas, we lost Oklahoma, whatever." Oklahoma's 6-7. Texas just lost to Arizona State. This new team we brought in. That's besides the point. But yeah, all those hypothetical situations that, Alabama would beat. They beat SMU by 2 touchdowns. They'd kill Indiana. Who beat Michigan? Indiana did. And Indiana got clowned for only beating Michigan by 5 points. How many points did Alabama lose to Michigan by? Was it 2 scores, wasn't it? No, it was
Yeah.
19-13.
No, it
Excuse
was
me.
a one-score game. It was just 2 field goals.
Yeah, they were down 2 scores at the beginning, though. I know that, again, I know the way the game worked a little bit, ended a little bit differently, and I'm not going to suggest this, but Indiana lost to Notre Dame by 10 points in South Bend. Georgia lost by 13. Again, I am not saying Indiana is a better team. I'm saying Indiana absolutely belonged. I think this year, as a whole, I think the Big Ten's a better conference than the SEC. I don't think they have been in the past. I think this year, though, they are better. I want to hear your thoughts on that, Lucas.
I gotta get the kernel out my freaking throat. Hey, Orville Redenbacher popcorn for the win. But no.
Where it's at, man.
Yeah, man. But no, I completely agree. And I questioned a couple people. I talked to a couple of dudes that are around the SEC, and I questioned, this is the year where we legitimately see the SEC in danger of going a second straight year without a national championship representative in football. And it just goes to show you how the evolution of the game and the evolution of the money aspect in college football has evolved. And if you really think about it, 0 SEC teams are going to play in the national championship. Well,
barring something very unexpected with Texas.
Yes. The only reason I'm not really saying Texas is because it's their first year. And, I mean, no real SEC blue blood that has been there for the last 50 years is making the college football playoff national title. And in a year where everybody expected for this year, when you looked at preseason, when you looked at Texas, when you looked at Georgia, when you looked at Bama, when you looked at LSU, when you looked at Ole Miss, when you looked at Tennessee, who am I missing? And I mean, hell, even blue blood like Kentucky with a 5-star coming in and Brock Vandegrift and some All-Americans on the defense. Missouri, another one. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were expecting this to be maybe a 5, hell, even a 6-team SEC slate in the playoff.
Yeah, I think something that was kind of crazy. The SEC and the Big Ten, I think they wanted, this never happened. I think they wanted 4 guaranteed bids, and then they're going to go to 14 teams in the playoff. 4 SEC teams in the playoffs every year. You want to talk about teams that don't belong in the playoffs? No, it's stupid, and no, you don't have 6 SEC teams that are good enough to make the college football playoff. It's that simple.
Not this year.
Nope. No. Yeah, I'm not saying it can't happen. No. Not this year. Not in 2024, though.
This year was so weird around college football that you never really knew about what we should have expected. I mean, when you talk about the weirdness, nobody expected Vanderbilt to beat Bama. Nobody expected for a good bit of teams to come in and challenge for the SEC crown. I mean, we at one point in the season, we had a 4 or 5-way tie in the SEC at I think 4-1. Nobody expected that. But yet here we are, and really seeing how the SEC struggled today, how the SEC had struggled throughout the postseason, and we are officially seeing a new era where the last 15 or 18, the last 20 years has been the SEC. And as somebody that humbly, I'm from SEC Unfiltered. I'm around SEC country. I know what it means to be around the SEC. The last 2 years have been very lackluster, unfortunately, for the SEC. And it just goes to show you what can truly happen in a crazy year that was 2024 and how the SEC just regressed bad this year.
Yeah. I think the narrative was, before the postseason, the SEC is still the best team or best conference in the country. And a big problem with that is we don't know. We don't get enough games between, the ACC and the SEC or the Big Ten and the SEC and whoever to figure this stuff out. And again, those records, I think I want to say I'm an ACC guy. I'm a Syracuse fan. I want to see the ACC succeed. I want to say the SEC was, I think, like 7-3 against the ACC, something in that ballpark. But you have Williams like Ole Miss, who's probably like the fifth best team in the SEC, blowing out a bad Wake Forest team. On the other end, you have I think a 9-3, 8-4 Louisville team dominating a demoralized Kentucky team who went 4-8 at the end of the year. You don't know how good a conference is because of those two games. So we need more non-conference games between the ACC and the SEC, between the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC. We need more of those games to figure out which conferences are really better. Yeah, you can look at recruiting, you can look at the team talent rankings, but that's not the best way of determining which teams and which conferences are better.
I am. Oh wait, am I too close to the microphone?
No,
Or
you're
am I not
fine.
close enough?
I'm
I
fine.
am disgusted at the performance the Georgia Bulldogs put out today. I'm disgusted at the regression of Mike Bobo's offense today. I'm disgusted that when we had Will Muschamp as the defensive coordinator, this was a tough defense.
You talking
And all of
about
a sudden
Georgia?
we're what?
You talking about Georgia?
Yeah, that was 2021.
What?
2021. Do you remember that? He was also
Yes, I remember that.
He was a co-DC last year. There were
Dude, you
two-
act like Glenn Schumann's been dog water this year.
Yeah, no, Glenn Schumann is not the problem with this team.
Glenn Schumann's been fine, but it's like a mentality thing. It's there's a strategy and mentality thing. I could go on for hours about that part as well. I think Glenn Schumann's for a head coaching job this time around. Anyways, I'm not trying to talk on Glenn Schumann. Anyways, but essentially, Georgia should have played better. Georgia shouldn't have had the mental errors. Georgia shouldn't have had the personnel errors. And I will say Kirby Smart will probably talk about what should have been called for illegal substitution, because you cannot take a player off the side onto the sideline and back onto the field within one snap.
Yeah.
If they go back on the sideline, they have to stay. Now that play
They
has
won't want to.
existed for that play has existed for 50, 60 years, but whenever it has existed previously, they'll have like a dummy offense set up to go out there, or they'll just keep 5 or 6 of their guys on special teams on the field and set up that way and have some very basic flex bone or something like that, wing tee, whatever. But yeah, but essentially, and as I digress on my disappointment in the Georgia Bulldogs, I must give a congratulations and a shout out to Riley Leonard, Fairhope, Alabama legend, on another successful bowl victory or playoff victory technically. He will be in the Senior Bowl later because I believe he is like the hometown pick basically. But he's also a top 10 quarterback in the next year's draft. So but Riley Leonard, he gave it all up today. He tried his very best and they won, right? Very simply put. It was probably Georgia's worst special teams game all year. It was probably tied for their worst receiving game all year. Quarterback play wise, it actually was a pretty fine game from Gunnar Stockton. I said in the second quarter that this game was not on Gunnar. You cannot blame the quarterback for 40-yard drops. You cannot blame the quarterback for mistakes from the sideline. You cannot blame the quarterback for all this other stuff. Now, sure, a few things protection-wise, yeah, you could blame him for not understanding that, but you can't really blame a backup for that kind of thing, right? And I will say my one thing, when he got blown up on that fourth down when they brought Etienne in, they had Cash Jones on the field the first time for a reason. They had Cash Jones on the field because Cash Jones can make those reads himself and understand where he needs to block. Etienne has never been a good pass blocker. It was not at Florida. I guess it wasn't a point of emphasis in the offseason at Georgia. And he's just been meh at the position. So
Here's where I'm confused. Why did Nate Frazier only have 4 carries? Why the hell did they run Trevor
He had
Etienne?
7 touches on the night, I believe, and he had like 55 yards or something because every time he touched the ball, he got.
Why are we
yardage.
not giving our playmaker the football? Trevor Etienne couldn't do anything between the tackles.
He was Trevor. This was not the Trevor Etienne game.
Oh my God, no.
I had said that beforehand. I had said that if we try to use Trevor Etienne between the tackles, it will not be good. And the funniest part about all we just said, right? So Trevor Etienne, his rush average was 3.5. Okay, let's just keep that in your noggin. Now, Cash Jones was only used 3 times. However, he had 33 yards on a touchdown. Nate Frazier was only used 6 times, had 54 yards. Trevor Etienne was used 15 times for 64 yards. that usage across the board had like Arian Smith was our go-to target, but even then he only had one true reception and one true carry, right?
Mm.
And his only
Yeah.
reception was that one on the second drive that or the second quarter drive that ended up in the touchdown, right? So it's like, ugh, and then London Humphreys wasn't out there all night. It was insane. Like, ugh.
Yeah, I think
No.
I think there's just some problems with the Georgia, just the roster construction overall. This team
Yeah.
doesn't have difference makers at the receiver position.
No.
They don't.
I,
It's that simple. They have a couple good players who sometimes they make plays, sometimes they don't. They have a lot of drops. They don't. Some of it is what is it? Ra Thomas, who never was able to play, and Colby Young. Are those the names?
yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have probably two of the better guys, but you're
And then we
Georgia.
only
You
use
should have enough guys, in to make plays. I don't think Notre Dame has great receivers either, but it would
Yeah.
definitely make a difference for Georgia today.
You can't use Oscar Delp twice, like you can't use your tight end two times. I think in the previous game, especially against Texas, how many times did he use Delp? We had to use him 4 times against Texas, but his biggest one was against Tennessee, which I mean, like, oh my Lord, literally he had a reception or a touchdown in every game that we blew out people, right? And even he had a touchdown in overtime against Georgia Tech, and I'm like. It would let's have a day, let's have a day in college football.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, you mentioned it already. Colby Young was a big target. And if it's not for him being absolutely stupid and getting arrested and doing something dumb over a battery freaking charge, you would have had a lot of dudes out there. You would have had a lot more in your arsenal. The drops have been a problem for Georgia. I don't know what the hell the problem was this year with drops, but oh my God, it was ridiculous seeing the amount of drops that Georgia had this year. It was unbelievable watching a usually disciplined Kirby Smart team have that any issues at receiver. And look, when we look at it now, this transfer portal haul that we thought was going to be a difference maker for Georgia, it was a big miss for them. You really didn't see a lot of playmakers because they were freaking getting arrested. When you talk about Colby Young, didn't do anything, had a great start to the year, gets busted for a battery charge and then doesn't play after the month of October. You talk about Ra Thomas, who was supposed to be your big-time guy, who was supposed to be the number one guy to look out for this upcoming year as your number one receiver, boom, gets busted, doesn't play because he wants
I don't want to rub this in too much. You guys remember Jackson Meeks at Georgia?
Who?
yeah,
Jackson
Exactly.
Meeks. No,
Yeah.
Hear me out, Lucas. He transferred to Syracuse this year, 1,000-yard receiver. He does all the little things. He doesn't drop the ball. He's fantastic on back shoulder fades. He draws a lot of defensive pass interference. He does all the little things right. 1,000-yard receiver with Syracuse. Obviously, I'm not saying he's a 1,000-yard receiver with Georgia if he stays. Do you think that he's going to make plays for the Bulldogs? Definitely.
Just doesn't make sense. I mean, when you talk about the tight end game that we thought was going to be unbelievable, dude, Dylan Bell had a great start to the game. Had 3 catches. And then you just the biggest turning point in the second half, other than the kick return, was that big drop pass from Dylan Bell. That took all the momentum away from Georgia. I mean, you got to have that football, dude. That's 88 and out the gate if you catch that thing. Now, granted, this probably could have been a Notre Dame shutout. If it's not for the penalties that Georgia had, this could have very well ended off in a Notre Dame shutout of Georgia. If you really think about it.
yeah.
That's
And
insane.
oh, you can go, Alec.
No, I literally was just going to say that's insane. It's insane for a team as talented as Georgia to be close to getting shut out in a football game.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense in my mind. It's incomprehensible how that could happen.
Look at that. That's a
It's just
Syracuse word right there. Incomprehensible. That's like that's a Scrabble word. No, I'm joking.
But no, that linebacking core from Notre Dame, Donovan Heinisch, Drake Bowen had a hell of a game.
Hey,
And Jack Kaiser in the middle, number 24. He was usually mostly used as a spy in the middle because they knew Gunner was going to take off and run. He's a much more mobile quarterback than Carson. But the thing about it is they were able to contain him a good bit of the night. So when you tried to get him out on the option and you get him outside, Notre Dame had a great game plan. Al Golden, you better give him the game ball because he had a hell of a game. I will give – there's a reason why he's a Broyles Award finalist, and that's a reason why I thought he was one of the best defensive minds this year in college football was his ability to scheme up against this Mike Bobo offense and to confuse a young first-time starting quarterback who basically got thrown to the wolves. I mean, he did. First ever start going up against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in Al Golden's defense, and your first time playing is against Texas. So you basically had a game and a half to prepare for what your starting role is going to be next year. I'll say this may be the beginning of the end for Georgia, which is painful for me to talk about. But man, I mean, when you look at what happened, I mean, last year was a great year for them. But, I mean, they had flaws. This secondary had problems. Tackling it open space, being late in coverage, the little things that affected Georgia came back to bite them today against a much more experienced Notre Dame team that was ready to come punch dudes in the mouth.
my only thing with a discourse on it's the beginning of the end for Georgia is that I think they're just gonna get the same thing that Alabama gets, at this point. Like they're gonna get the same kind of treatment of, oh well, they're not gonna be able to last now because X happened or this happened. And I think it's just gonna get overworn, right? I think there's just gonna be a real. I'm not okay. We're gonna talk about the Michigan game later. And I just put maize on that little pentagon I have at the bottom. We're not putting maize on there. We're putting blue on there. Anyways, but I think for like the next, like 20 years, it'll be the same thing that Saban got, right? So it's like, well, you never know. They could. And it's just, I don't know if I'm fully into that whole discussion of like, hey, well, that they still could, like, ugh, it's gonna get worn out in my opinion.
Let me ask you a question. Just coming off of the top of my head, Jalen Milroe announcing he will head to the NFL draft. Is he worthy of a first-round pick?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely not.
Why?
Absolutely not. He has
Why
so much.
Why do you say yes, Scout? And me and Alec, we can share why he is not.
It's because when you draft a player in the NFL, you draft him off his athletic potential and what he could be. Because there's plenty of quarterbacks that have a high floor, right? I could go pick Davis Mills and have him start and then get a Sam Darnold level performance if I really, work into him. Because I think the biggest thing that these franchises are starting to finally figure out that it's not that the quarterbacks have been bad, it's that they've been handling them wrong. There's no reason that Baker Mayfield shouldn't have worked out in Cleveland. Hell, he won a playoff game for him, but he goes down to Tampa and he's been a lot more efficient. Why is that? There's no reason Sam Darnold couldn't have won with the Jets, but all of a sudden he goes to the Vikings, and now the Vikings are a lot better. And then who's the third one? There's another one. Geno Smith. Geno Smith didn't work out for like hardly any team, and then all of a sudden he goes to the Seahawks, and they actually won the hell out of that trade, and the Seahawks are better because of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, it gets so bloated and annoying whenever you start talking about the all the different things that happen in games. But if you're patient with this quarterback, and I don't think he's going top, like I said he would go top 15 if he has a good combine. I think that's true. I think you have an Anthony Richardson level rise. But with me, if a team like, the Titans or the team like the who would be somebody deep that needs a quarterback? Even the Bucks, even with Baker Mayfield, right? Baker's not
Oh,
going to be
stop
like,
it. Stop it.
but
No.
I mean, they got Trask, but I mean, like, even if you have like a 20-ish pick and you're not fully set on your quarterback, I could see him making the pull out. Like, who would be one that would be more acceptable for the public eye? The 49ers, hello? They don't have a quarterback that's consistent. Brock Purdy's the most inconsistent quarterback I've ever seen. They let Jimmy Garoppolo go to the Rams after he had those PEDs or whatever, which I'm still there was like I never saw the actual tests or whatever. They post all the other tests and then those come out and they're like, man, I don't know if we're gonna post these anyways. But yeah, um, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, there are a lot of these players that yeah, sometimes they need a second chance and sometimes they can develop. Let's go back to that 2018 class. You know what Josh Rosen's doing right now?
Getting paid on a
The boy
practice
out of
record.
Walmart stocking shelves.
No, he's actually bettering his education. He's at Penn. He's at the Wharton School of
There
Business.
you go.
Penn. Good for him.
Yeah,
He's gonna have a great degree, but he's not a football guy. He's not.
yeah.
There's a reason why everybody else in that class is doing good things, and he's in grad school. I look at Anthony Richardson.
But I think
Anthony.
too, when you look at Josh Rosen, I think they gave up on him really, really quickly.
They
They
did.
did.
You got to be honest. He was in a bad organization with a bad nucleus of talent with him. Even when he got traded to Miami, who was around him at that time? Nobody. You didn't have a Tyreek Hill. You can look at Tua Tagovailoa and you could consider him a bust. But just because he has Tyreek Hill and just because he has Jalen Waddle, we can consider him an elite talent.
So after that, he was with
quarterback.
After that, he was with Atlanta. I think he was with the Rams for a little while. He never did anything, though, for those teams. And again, that's besides the point. I look at Anthony Richardson. I know he's only in his second year. I haven't seen anything. I've seen a team that, they want to protect him. They've given him decent weapons. It's not Michael Pittman's and Alec Pierce. That's a good duo. They have a good offensive line. They have a good running game. I'm not seeing him develop, I think Milroe is not Anthony Richardson. He is much more developed as a passer, but I just don't think he needs another year in school. That's how he's not ready, in my opinion. And I think it would be better if, let's say, I think he needs to transfer anyways. I think he just needs to get out of Tuscaloosa. He transfers. He has a good year. He develops as a passer. He goes to the NFL. He is ready right away. And he can be a top 5 pick instead of, maybe a first rounder, like a late first round pick. You get all that extra money. You're going to get a lot of money at the college level as well with NIL. I just think it would work out a lot better for him.
But then you look at DJU, and DJU was kind of in that boat last year. He goes back to the pro, or he goes back to college, and he's in a much worse spot. So
DJU, Milroe's just a much better quarterback than DJU, just based on his athleticism, if nothing else. Yeah. DJU, he found a scheme that truly was perfect for him at Oregon State. He could run the ball a lot, or they run the ball a lot of play action.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I love that Oregon State team. I still love Jonathan Smith as a head coach. I loved him at Oregon State even more though. But I don't think he had an offense that, was perfectly tailored for him at Alabama. I think that they had Ryan Williams, they had this talent, but I think I just think there's a better fit for him and he can develop more somewhere. I think Kalen DeBoer's coaching style as well wasn't the best for DeBoer. I think he needs more of a disciplinary, a Nick Saban type head coach. Like, there's not a lot of Nick Sabans, obviously, but somebody who's going to be tough on him and push him to be as best as he can. Kalen DeBoer's coaching style worked for Michael Penix does not mean it's working for Jalen Milroe.
No. Hey, let me say this with my full chest real quick. Nicholas Sheridan, you gotta be able to get on your horse a little better with that one. I truly believe that if Nick Sheridan got on when I say get on the horse, we knew of some of these issues beforehand, right? We knew that he tipped plays, right? We knew of all this other stuff. And it was from the Vandy game, the first interception, right? after the interception was when he started tipping. One of the guys I follow, he did a full breakdown on that. And you're telling me you have 10 in real life weeks from that game to the ReliaQuest Bowl, and you don't do a thing about it? You know, like,
Yeah.
ugh,
And if you tell Milrow, hey, you cannot do this, and you don't bench him, I think that's on the coaching staff because you're
yes,
hurting your team. Is Ty Simpson that much worse?
Don't get me
That's a
started.
whole other problem if he is.
Yeah, and I really don't think Ty is worse either. I think Ty's
No,
actually
I think Simpson's going to be the starting quarterback for Alabama next year. I think he's going to be a great quarterback.
I thought Alabama had that 5-star coming in.
Okay, look, everybody's saying
Keelan, yeah.
Keelan's gonna start. I don't.
No,
I
you
don't
don't sign
see
a true
it.
freshman.
Never look. How many true freshmen are starting in the playoff right now? Huh?
Hey. You talking about
Good
growth?
point.
The kid can, if he grows, the kid can develop himself into a decent quarterback. You just got to
Yeah.
give him time. I'm not saying he's going to go ahead and sling the football down the field and immediately lead Bama back to the promised land and get him back into the CFP. But I do think if you see growth from him, and if you see because all likelihood going into spring, Ty Simpson's going to be the guy, unless something changes. And we all know what happens. Kalen DeBoer likes to sling the rock around.
Yeah.
I don't know if he really truly wants a mobile quarterback in his system. He wants somebody that can be like a Michael Penix or what he had in the Jeff Tedford system at Fresno State. He wants something like that. So I do think that when you look at it, I think Ty Simpson gives you that. But I do think as well, when you look at Keelan Russell, he's athletic, but at the same time, man, he's got an arm. I mean, he's compared to Jaden Daniels already as a 17-year-old in high school, 6'3", $175. Definitely going to have a big upside. But guys, I wanted to show you this play real fast that really just opened the floodgate for Notre Dame. This was the strip sack right before the half. And this is just unbelievable. And this is what you get with a young quarterback. See, here we go. It's just a 4-man pressure. It's full slide protection. Everybody's playing zone. Nobody's really sending any pressure. But you just get beat off the edge. It's speed to power, a nice little dip and rip. Or I say that, it's a little, we like to call that a little chopsticks. We swipe the hands with the opposite side. We flip our hips back and we rip back up. And we get in the backfield. Look, I think that Georgia's offensive line was pretty bad this year.
Oh, for sure.
I will just be straight up with you.
Especially the tackles, but also like, okay, the interior O linemen on individual ratings, fine. I'm okay with them. I would draft Tate Ratledge right now, right? But it's like,
yeah, I mean, you're talking about two All-American guards outside.
Yeah, but like as a whole unit, it's like it just doesn't mesh well, right?
No.
I think that there's a big difference. Like think about Evan Neal at Alabama was not that great at Alabama when he played in that unit. But as an individual, when you watch the tape one-on-one, especially when he played against, well, that would have been like Trayvon Walker and all them, like he looked great, But play to play, you're like, oh, he can't really move his legs. He's not really adjusting to this. He was terrible. Like they would do like this weird pull thing or whatever. He was terrible at that. But then he goes to the NFL and they clean it up, and all of a sudden, oh, he's another great player from Alabama. But I'm like, that development didn't happen at Alabama. It's very clear and evident it didn't happen at Alabama. Is Wyoming going to get credited with Josh Allen? Shout out upstate New York, Alex here. Anyways, I assume you're a Bills fan, Alec?
Oh, I am. Absolutely.
Yeah, upstate New York. Shout out. But yeah.
I mean, I think
ugh.
I think that's, I'm going to go on a little tangent here. I think that is also a problem with, the 247s, the Rivals, the M3s of the world who, a big part of their rating system, it's about how guys are going to pan out for the NFL. That's why, size is such a big deal, especially pro size as well, Doesn't mean obviously size is important at the college level too, but I so much of what they do is tailoring for the NFL level, not what players are great in college. And there is a difference between somebody who's great in college and somebody who's great in the NFL.
That's why I have preached every time when I come on here or when I go on Texas Sports Unfiltered. I say stop letting On3 recruit for you. You cannot base it off of what On3 has. They are a freaking system. We have scouts that evaluate them who probably have never played a down of football in their life, who have never been around the game that long. Look, this is what I hate. I mean, I absolutely abhor in the sport of football is that we have these so-called analysts like a Mel Kiper or a freaking Todd McShay or whatnot. I respect a guy like, oh crap, what's his name? From Tom Luganville. I mean, the guy's coached and he's played the game of football. He runs the ESPN Top 300 for recruiting. I actually respect him. I do. Because he knows what he's doing and he knows what he's evaluating. But when I go to just these different media members that are local, like TV stations, or when I go to ESPN, what the hell do they know about the game of football? What do they know? I hate it. And we act like we should respect their opinion. And we act like they know what they're doing and we know what they're looking at on paper. What they're looking at on tape. They don't. Mina Kimes, I'm talking to you. You suck at your job. You don't know hell of what you're talking about, especially when it comes to the NFL game. Mina Kimes is a freaking joke. Let me just tell you that.
I don't think it's Mina individual. I just think that ESPN tries to pull for ratings on some of their shows like that.
That's the DEI bullshit that they pull.
It's just that they're trying to pull
Mina
for
Kimes
ratings.
thinks she knows all sorts of crap about football. Oh my gosh. She's never been in the locker room and has never been in a football scenario as a coach. Let's stop it. Oh my God.
A little passionate there, Lucas.
Huh?
A little passionate.
Dude, I played football for 10 years. I played ever since I was 8 years old, and I played on college. I know I played college. I was a freaking walk-on in an FCS. Oh my God, that's so bad. I played.
No, you played.
Okay. I may not have made it long. I got cut only a few weeks after fall camp, but at least I got an opportunity. What has Mina Kimes done? Oh my gosh, she got lucky. It's the DEI stuff, bro. Anyways, let's get away from that. Away. But back to this. I think you look at the big turning points in this football game, and you have to obviously look at the last 40 seconds of the first half, and you look at the kick return at the start of the game. You knew that Georgia had to come out on special teams and attack. And you knew that you had to get a stop on defense. Boom, you're 98 and out the gate. And that's just when all the momentum that Georgia was trying to get back basically was lost. Your offense puts you in bad predicaments when you turn the football over in your own territory. Your special teams let you down badly. And down the end of the game, you got worn down across the entire board on defense. And Riley Leonard just basically played Q draw. You had big opportunities. Your defense gave you some wins too. 4th down stop. Near midfield. Boom, you don't come away with anything. And so I think that's just a testament to what Georgia has been all season. Your offense has been very inconsistent this year. Your offensive line has put you in your offense has put your defense in very bad situations. Alabama's a great example. Florida's a great example. Ole Miss is a great example. And this was a great example.
I was hoping that Georgia would go in after that second drive. I was like, okay, they're playing more like what they did against Tennessee. They're wearing down the time of possession. They're being able to own the line of scrimmage. They're getting the football to your playmakers, and you're taking chances with a guy like Gunnar Stockton. That's what you wanted to see. And then you got down into the red zone, and you basically pissed down your leg. I need a drink.
I will say.
I'll take over for a little bit.
Oh wait, what?
He needs a drink, apparently.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah,
I think what was it you want to say? Well, I don't know how to follow that up.
There's a lot going on with Georgia, and not a lot of it's good, man. Yeah, I think that when I look at this team, I think they need to make some staff changes. I am not incredibly tapped in with the Georgia coaching staff. I know they lost a couple of good assistants to head coach opportunities. I think they absolutely need a new wide receiver coach. Just plain and simple, the development at that position has not been there from high school recruiting and the transfer portal. Again, now you're seeing drops. How are drops an issue at Georgia?
36 drops all season.
How do you have 30?
I think the number one up actually from that number. I'm pretty sure it's like 38
3 drops a game.
39.
Nearly 3 drops a game. How do you have that? That's on the coaching staff, plain and simple. Or the recruiting staff, or recruiting players that don't know how to catch, even though it's arguably the easiest thing to coach up. It's a fucking football.
Oh my gosh, dude. I mean, that was as frustrating a game as you could have if you were a Georgia fan. But, dude, if there was any coach that I would love to play, it'd be for those two dudes. It'd be Marcus Freeman, it'd be Kirby Smart. But I will say this. I think Kirby definitely had a lot of pressure to take over as the next GOAT. And you see where it led to. It led to things like this. It led to letdowns on the season. And sure, fans are going to go back in the season and you're going to be like, we lost Carson Beck. Oh, we could have won if we had him. No, you couldn't have. Even if Carson Beck was in this football game, I don't think it would have mattered.
No. It's not act like Carson Beck didn't regress all year and have a lot of turnover problems.
I thought this was the worst take I've ever had. 2 of the worst takes, I should say. First one, I thought Texas was going to go 9-4. So that was a bad one. But that was in the month of January, and I was doing an early prediction, so I kind of got away from the fan brutality of that one. But no, when I thought Carson Beck was on pace to potentially having a Joe Burrow type of season. Boy, was I wrong.
He was for a while.
Yeah.
He was.
No. Really? When was
at the beginning of the year? You
at the
saw
beginning of the year,
good number. You saw great
even
numbers
after the Bama game. It was up until the Ole Miss game, basically.
The Ole Miss game, yeah. I mean, he had a couple turnovers against Mississippi State. I don't know. I thought Carson Beck was going to be the Heisman winner this year. I didn't think he was going to be like Joe Burrow, but I thought, with everything around him, with the very good transfer portal wide receiver class and being Georgia, they're just going to give it to Carson Beck. He had a great year a year ago. Boy, was I wrong too.
Let me read you the stats compare from 2023 to 2024. 23, 72% completion percentage, 3,900 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Majority of those passing yards came after that Ole Miss game. That's when he really started to turn it on there in this season. And then you looked at this year, 64 completion percentage, 64.7% completion percentage, 3,485 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And at one point in the middle of the season, in between that Alabama and the Ole Miss game, dude, I mean, it was bad. I'm trying to count right now. 12 turnovers. All 12 of his turnovers came from September 28th all the way to November 9th. In a span of a month and a half. All during SEC play. I mean, that's bad. You saw a lot of inconsistency. Even during the Texas game. That was arguably his worst game of the year. 3 picks And somehow Georgia managed to win that football game with that run game with Nate Bell and Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, he was
Also,
that Florida game was going to be even worse, except the fourth quarter he finally turned things around. With that, and that could have been one of the worst, one of the most embarrassing losses, losing to a goddamn walk-on quarterback at Florida. That's insane.
well,
And
they were really
was about to
losing to
happen.
Lagway.
Yeah, but no, the walk-on let him down on a couple drives. I know they got a field goal at least out of him. I think they got a touchdown too.
He was okay, but I mean, it's a
Lagway was
walk.
putting belts of butt on him earlier.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, DJ Lagway, to me, I'm going to make this right now. Your 2026 Heisman Trophy winner is DJ Lagway. I have the utmost confidence in such. I would think he could be a finalist this upcoming year, too, depending on what they do with this season. Look, it's going to be the same schedule for Florida. So, I mean, do I think this is going to be an improved Florida team? Yes. You've been able to get some key recruits from the recruiting cycle through that high school level. You've also been able to get some dudes through the portal as well. So I don't really know if they're going to be able.
Dallas Wilson, biggest one.
Dallas Wilson's going to be a dude. He's going to be scary.
Who's the guy they got from Texas as well? Jonte Cook? I think Cook's going to be good as well.
I thought Jonte Cook was at
No.
was at Washington. No, yeah, he ended up going.
Oh no, yeah, he's at Washington. You're right.
Yeah.
Who's their portal wide receiver then? Not J. Michael Sturdivant. Who's the thing I'm thinking of then? They got another good receiver from the portal.
Cook. It's Cook. I know that much. Texas.
Or maybe I'm wrong. I know Florida they were favored for Cook for a little while, weren't they? They didn't. I guess went to Washington.
I'm looking right now and seeing what.
Oh, he went to Washington? What?
Yeah, that kind of caught me off guard.
I thought he signed with Florida. There was this whole.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I mean, either way, if nothing else, they got Daniel Slaughter. He's got another year, doesn't he? The center.
I think so.
I think it's good. They're building a team. I think they're gonna run the ball a lot next year. It's really that simple. They got obviously Lagway's a dual threat. They got a good O-line. Their freshman running back this year, I can't remember his name. He is fantastic as well. They got some good pieces that they're building out down in Gainesville.
It's definitely going to be interesting for Florida, especially next year, because everything just turns around. Your schedule just flips. You go to Baton Rouge. I think you do. Don't you go to do you end up going to A&M this year, or does A&M go to Gainesville?
Yeah. It would be at A&M. Yep, at A&M, at Ole Miss.
Oh my God, he did commit to Florida, and then he got out.
He decommitted?
Oh, you know what? Okay, you know what this timeline lines up with? He commit to Florida. Dallas Wilson commit to Florida, and then he pulled out.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I would too.
I think he knew he wasn't going to be the number one guy there. That's kind of why he pulled out too.
Yeah. Also for okay, so we're gonna go live on Twitter because I don't know how to multi-stream off OBS quite yet for free. I know you can do it. I just don't know.
Do you want to use the same overlay, or you want to just take that out? And if you want to, you can send me the overlay that you have for the happy hour.
No, the only thing I don't like about this is that like on this it like takes away the quality. Like I don't know if y'all realize how high quality it comes out on OBS, but like on YouTube, like it's like 1080p. Like I can see everybody's face or whatever. Versus like if you record a StreamYard and then you put it into YouTube, like both parts of that hate it. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all's faces aren't the best because it's Video Ninja, but like my face, like you can see like my damn acne and shit. Like
hey yo, hey yo. That's
Hey,
funny.
Scott, I think it's just your webcam, man. My laptop doesn't have a great webcam.
Oh.
You as well to an extent, Lucas.
Yeah. To be fair, I am on my laptop, so I really don't have a decent webcam. This is like a 5 or 10-year-old laptop too.
Okay. And then
Fair enough.
That has been
So we're
through
gonna talk
a
about
lot of hell.
we're gonna talk about Independence Bowl. We're gonna talk about the ReliaQuest Bowl because I want to make sure that if we bring up something that's in the future in a previous episode, we talk about in the next episode. Just to have some continuity there, continuity, not continuity. Wait, is it? I don't know. I don't know.
Continuity, I think. Continuity.
But yeah. And for this one, you'll realize, but I had one of my guys. He kind of critiqued a few of the different things that I had been doing, just to see, what was on center, what was off center,
Yeah.
those kind of
My
things.
face, that's got to be a little more on center. I think it is right now, but
We'll be fine. The only thing with you is like I have to like push your camera so far up because like your head in your camera is so low.
let's try that.
There we go, banger. We get to see his shirt.
Yep. Shout out Carlisle.
But overall, as we kind of close out here on the Nightcap, unless we just want to keep rolling or just go to a different stream yard for the happy hour, Scout,
I'll
whatever
just
you
do
want to do.
OBS or whatever.
Okay, that's fine.
But do you have
But,
Discord on your computer yet?
Huh?
Do you have Discord on your computer?
I don't have the app, but I mean, I can look it up.
You can just go to their website.
Yeah.
It's discord.com, whatever. That's what I do.
I would not go to the website actually. Because
Wow.
if you're using Video Ninja, it'll mess it up. You gotta just get the app downloaded.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll be
Because if you're
downloading the
using
app.
Video Ninja, your browser can only have. Oh my God, I'm gonna nerd out so bad. Your browser can only have one thing when it comes to
Oh,
you know.
God.
So
All right. If you say
No,
so.
as we close out here on the Nightcap, as we approach that hour mark. By the way, Instagram, I got to shut it down. It's been an hour. Make sure that y'all go ahead, follow me on X at Lucas_Hill23. You can follow Alex. Dear God, I got to look at the freaking, I got to look at the damn messages again. At Netterveld CFB. Follow Scout at Southern Charm SB. Instagram, y'all have a great one. We'll see y'all next time on the Nightcap. As we end that one, let's go back to our friends over on YouTube and X. Final thoughts from today's action.
I don't know.
Shout out Notre Dame. They are
Yeah,
one of the
shout
best
out
teams in the
Ryland or
country.
shout
They
out
can
Notre Dame.
easily win this national championship. No doubts in my mind.
I think we're expecting the first year that the SEC has truly looked very, very vulnerable. I know last year we saw it, but I think there was a lot of teams that got left out, and I think we only got to see a tiny bit of what the SEC could have had. But this year is much worse. This is the very first year of which we're really seeing the SEC look very vulnerable. And it's concerning. It's worrisome for the conference. And it's only going to get worse if things don't change. You need to start getting more active in the portal, and you need to start getting more active in really keeping the noise to a minimum about your conference and start showing some stuff on the field. That's all I really have to say. Guys, thank you all for tuning into this instant live reaction following Notre Dame and Georgia. Final score 23-10. Notre Dame dominates the Georgia Bulldogs on their road to Arlington, to Jerry World, as they will play the Penn State Nittany Lions for a chance to play back at NRG for the college football playoff national title. Final audience count tonight, 232 of you joining in. So a nice show today, boys. We will catch you all next week. We'll be back here I want to say we'll probably be back here tomorrow. At least I will be. I don't know about you, Scout, but if we don't see you by then, we will see you all next week as we begin previews for the college football playoff semifinals. Y'all have a great rest of the day, and we will see you all on the Nightcap.